Before we begin today's recording, I'd like to apologize for the noise in the background, and that's because that time of year has come again and the midterms are upon us. So I'm trying to get some work done while the baby is here at home, and we've done our early morning exercises with Khan Academy, all the intellectual stuff. And so now that he is engaged watching the much more entertaining stuff on Coco Melon, I figured let me get some recordings done, and then after that I can move on with sales calls and all the other good stuff that we wedding industry professionals do. So, let's get straight to the recording now that that is out of the way. Oh, for those of you who have children, I'm sure you can relate, and for those of you who do not have children, maybe you're newlyweds or you're currently getting ready to walk down the aisle with someone, then this is some of the good stuff that you have to look forward to, especially if you are involved with trying to build a business along the way. All right, so now the topic for today. Now, back while I was in my undergrad in Obafemi Awolowo University studying law, there was a course that we did called the Law of Contract, and you could say for some of us anyway, who hadn't done anything entrepreneurial up until that point, that was the beginning of us being exposed to this beautiful world of commerce and business and people trying to make a way for themselves in the world, pretty much. And so one of the things that we discussed when talking about contracts was this idea summed up in a Latin phrase called consensus ad idem. Now, for those of you who have a paralegal or a legal background, you'll remember that our professors translated this for us as the meeting of the minds. And at the time, I'm sure we just memorized this as a necessary ingredient to pass our exams. But now that a lot of us are out of that phase, that's for those of us who read law or for those of us who read accounting, because I think people who read accounting were exposed to the law of contractors. So, where was I? Yeah, so we memorized consensus ad idem and all those other Latin stuff because we needed to pass our exams. But now that we are beyond that stage and we're now trying to build successful businesses, we now see that there was more to it than the theory that we were run through for the purposes of exams. So consensus ad idem is important because you have to determine if both of you have a meeting of minds, and that is how you're going to drive the relationship further. So consensus ad idem is one of the ingredients that is necessary for a contract. So, of course, how is the court going to establish consensus ad idem, that there was a meeting of the minds? Well, there are different ways that the court does that. So for those of you who don't have a legal background, but you've been watching Matlock and all these other shows, you know that the court usually is on a fact-finding mission, and so they need to look for clues, or whether that's in the contracts or different messages that you guys exchange, which the court will refer to as memoranda. And it is through that we're going to be able to prove if there was a meeting of the minds and if in fact these people were in agreement before they went along to pen down a contract. So what does this have to do with us? What this has to do with us is to show that even if you step back from the discipline of sales and marketing and all this fancy talk that we talk about, you'll find that even when you look at the hard-nosed professionals, lawyers, accountants, who else? People that are around this whole world of business and commerce and things like that, even they are concerned about the little niceties like that, like were these people actually of one mind? And it's a very important step to see if folks were indeed ready to enter into legal relations. And so it's something that we cannot take for granted ourselves, because the big boys and the big girls also take these things very seriously. And that's part of the reason why we have to adopt a questioning approach because the questions that we ask are going to help us determine if both of us have a meeting of minds in the first place. Because if you're asking lots of useful questions of your potential clients, in this case, for those of us who are wedding industry professionals, our brides and grooms, so if we ask questions and then we find out that our personalities are a mismatch, we find out that our goals are a mismatch, we find out that our style are a mismatch, we find out that there's no agreement when it comes to money, and then we also find out that we do not understand what the perfect vision they have for their wedding day is. Or if we're not in the wedding space, we don't understand what problem it is that they are trying to solve, either personal problems or business problems, then we know that we are setting ourselves up for a heap of problem. We're helping ourselves up for a heap of disaster along the way. So actually it's important that we ask lots of questions at the end of the day. And it's something that I keep saying time and time again that wedding planners do very well, because wedding planners, fortunately for them, they're in the situation where they cannot give a quote unless they understand all the parameters that they're working with. So that's one of the reasons why, on a practical level, wedding planners have to be, what will I say? Should I say talkative, chatty? Okay, well, not talkative. That's why they have to be very chatty. So that whole thing that wedding planners do, it actually is quite self-serving, because they need to get all the information. So when the wedding planner says, "Oh, hey, congratulations, how did you guys meet, blah blah blah, when is the wedding date, have you bought the dress, that," so all those questions might seem in the beginning light and fluffy, and she's just being talkative, and maybe that's what girls do. Well, because most wedding planners that I've run into anyway, at least here in Abuja, are female, because I think I know 2 male wedding planners. Okay, three male wedding planners in Abuja. The rest that I know are female. So it's not just a what's that word? So it's not just something that females do. It's something that is necessary, that we need to. It's an exercise that we all have to get involved in, so that we can. So we find out if it's a good idea to drive this business relationship forward. So all those questions that wedding planners ask, where they're trying to suss out the personality of the couple, their style, the vision of the day, those exercises that we need to do as well as wedding photographers and videographers and cake artists. So it's not just as simple as somebody calls us up and says, "Are you available for December 25th? And how much? What are your packages?" So the questions actually are really important, because what we're looking for is to see if there's any consensus ad idem. We want to see if there's any meeting of the minds. So if there's a meeting of the minds, then things should be relatively fine. But if from the beginning we didn't ask the questions and there wasn't any meeting of the minds, then you're going to have lots of disappointments and quarrels along the way. So remember to ask the questions. It's really important, because consensus ad idem, if we can establish that from the beginning, the meeting of the minds is going to make life exceedingly easy for us. So for a specific example of questions, all you have to do is keep listening to the podcast or scroll back a couple of episodes, and you see episodes where we discuss specific items. And then apart from that, if you are not a wedding planner, or if you're brand new to the wedding planner business, go hang out with older wedding planners, and then photographers, videographers. Hook up with wedding planners who are your friends. Go along with them on sales calls, or when they're sitting in with brides and grooms or their meetings. Just pay attention, and you'll pick up a thing or two about possible questions that you can ask. So that's it. So remember, in asking the questions, you're keeping an eye out for different things: their personality, their goals, their personal styles, budgetary expectations, and the vision that they have for the wedding day. The vision, most especially, absolutely important, because if you're a photographer and you're one of those people who has a very high sophisticated style, but you're dealing with a couple that is laid back and then anything will go, you could be setting yourself up for a world of tension if you do not ask all these questions ahead of time. So that's it for today's recording. Thank you guys very much for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja-based event and wedding photographer Tavishima Ayede. Thank you very much for your time and attention. And I'd also like to apologize in advance for the rest of the week, because you might be hearing some more noise in the background, because the midterms are upon us. And for those of you who don't have kids, we're looking forward to when you guys will join us with the joyful adventures that we have in trying to balance building a business and managing school schedules and all that fun stuff. So everyone, have a wonderful day.